This is the SUMIFS function, and the SUMIFS function is used to sum data in a range of cells where multiple criteria have been entered into the function. I'm in the performance summary worksheet, and the purpose of this worksheet is to summarize the data in the investment detail worksheet. For this exercise, we're going to total or sum the cell amounts where an investment has been tagged as a top performer, and we'll sum those values by investment type. So clicking back on the performance summary worksheets, for each one of these investment types or investment categories, we'll total the amount of the top performers from that category that is scheduled to be sold. I'm going to click on cell E3, typing the equal sign. The function name is SUMIFS. You want to remember the S at the end of the function name. Open parentheses, the sum range argument. This is the range of cells that contain values you'd like to sum. So I'm going to click the investment detail worksheet tab, highlighting the range T5 down to T34, so I'm going to add capacity to the function. If new data is added to this worksheet up through row 34, it will be included in the output in the function. I'm tapping the F4 key on the keyboard because I want to add an absolute reference to the cell range. I don't want the cell range to change when the function is copy and pasted. I'm going to tap the comma. Now I'm going to get to my first criteria range set. So the criteria range set, you have to define the range first, and then what criteria you want to match or select from that range. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight the range B5 down to B34. So I'm going to keep my cell capacity consistent for the function. And we'll scroll this back up. Tapping the F4 key, want to make sure there's absolute references on these cell ranges. Tapping the comma. The criteria for what I'm going to look for in the cell range is in the performance summary worksheet. So I'm going to click on the performance summary worksheet. Going to click on cell A3, and whatever is in cell 3, that will be searched and matched to the values in the range B5 to B34. Okay, I'm going to define a second criteria set by typing the comma. I'm going to go back in the investment detail worksheet, and we'll go ahead and move this tip box up here. Going to highlight the range U5 down to U34. Again, just keeping that capacity for the function consistent. And then I'm going to tap the F4 key. So this is the third cell range that I've added to the function. I want to make sure there's an absolute reference on these cell ranges. Going to tap the comma. I want to look for the word top in this cell range right here. So I'm going to open the quotations, type the word top, and then close the quotations. Remember, when you're defining any criteria argument, and we're in the criteria 2 argument here, when you're defining any criteria argument for the ifs functions, you want to make sure that words and logical tests are enclosed in quotations. So I'm going to close the parentheses and tap the Enter key on my keyboard. And the output shows that there is $19,254 worth of investments that we're planning to sell in the bond ETF category. Now I'm going to double click this so we can see how this function was constructed. If we take a look at the first argument, we're going to sum values in this range, T5 to T34. We're going to do that where there is a match to whatever is entered into cell A3 in the range B5 to B34, and a match where the word top exists in the range U5 to U34. So these criteria sets are going to reduce the number of cells in T5 to T34 that will be summed. Okay, I'm going to tap the Enter key on my keyboard. I'm then going to go back and click cell E3. I can now copy and paste this to the rows in my worksheet. I'm going to click the down arrow on the paste button. I'm selecting the formulas option. I don't want to change this border at the bottom of row 7. And the results show that there are 2 categories, the bond ETF and the stock ETF, where I have scheduled investments to be sold, but I don't plan on selling anything in these categories, the global stocks, precious metals, or common stocks. And that is how you use the SUMIFS function.